Suarez, who orchestrates another set piece and flicks it for Martial, who squeezed it through Ederson and established a United lead on Derby Day. Another way. James towards Rashford, free in a flash. We're here for Pogba, supported now by Daniel James, whose dream comes true. About it, lap it up, boy. There's clear pull back for Pogba. United look the business. Boy, they look the business. What a splendid Manchester United breakthrough goal. This resurgent red storm blows up again. Quite a sight when they're flying, and they're flying again now.
Hello and welcome back to the United Devils podcast. We're back with a brand new season after a 2-week break following the exit from the Europa League semi-final. And we're going to be back discussing the Premier League return, of course, which begins this weekend. And we're going to be looking at, while Manchester United don't start for another week, we're going to be predicting the top four, the relegation battle, the golden boot, potentially the golden glove, and any other predictions that will need to be down the road, as well as just an overview of the summer so far. With me today, I welcome back Arion and Suraj. I hope you guys are both doing well, despite all the news or lack of in some areas when it comes to Manchester United. Arion, at the moment, I mean, obviously, a lot of fans are rightfully angry at the lack of signings the Manchester United have, failed to achieve. And obviously, it's like history repeating itself a couple of years ago when Mourinho wasn't backed. What are your thoughts, obviously, with United going into the Premier League season in just 11 days?
Well, I try to be, in contrary to other things, with United, I try to always remain optimistic. So I think that because there's 11 days left, I do try to look at it that way, that there is still some time to do some business. And especially taking into consideration the fact that a lot of players are right now on international duty. So I think even if, say, United signed Sancho last week, he's not with the club integrating. So I think United have that kind of a cushion, to get those deals done over the next few days. But I think definitely this week is huge, because I know that the transfer window doesn't close until October, but I think there's just a difference when a player comes in and can get some time with the players in training and get to know the surroundings and stuff. Even though with Bruno, apparently that's just not a thing. But with some players, it is a thing, So I think this week is going to be huge. I think there might be some movements. I hope there will be some movements, because it seems like with the Sancho thing, it's been going on that it's just right there, It's like within reaching distance. There's also a couple other players that they're in heavy speculation right now. So I'm just trying to remain a bit patient, knowing that we're not starting right now, that we still have another week. So I think it's a big test for the board, though, to kind of show that will and the willingness to back Solskjaer, because he deserves it.
Absolutely. I think they've been saying we're going to back this manager. We're not going to, turn away from him. And then it's 11 days left till the Premier League season. I mean, I understand your point of biding time, because we've obviously seen the Maguire deal was a late addition. Igalo wasn't till deadline day in January. Historically, the likes of Martial, Fellaini, Mata have all taken a lot of time to get sorted. Suraj, when is the time to start panicking?
So I think essentially I'm not panicking at the moment, because all the briefs that come out of Manchester United is that we're relaxed about the transfers. I don't know why we're relaxed, but well, if they're saying it, again, see, the single point of failure at Manchester United is Ed Woodward and the board. And I've been impressed with Solskjaer signing so far and his targets. So I know there isn't an issue from that end. The part that worries me is Woodward. So I think what I'm essentially worried about is that he'll end up missing on players over just 5 million here and there. So I think, to answer your question, when should we start panicking? I think post 1st October is when I'll start panicking. The last 5 days and all, I'll still hold out for some hope, but I don't see it happening.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, obviously we've seen it go here and there when 5 million or maybe 5 to 10 million was the difference between the Maguire deal in 2018 even. Perisic the same season. Just to name a few, I think there was always issues with maybe Muller or Ramos or under Van Gaal. I think he also wanted Higuain and all sorts of players, Neymar too, but I think that was a more unrealistic transfer. But the same thing applies. I mean, he huffs and puffs over the pennies when really when it comes to the big players, it's just get the money, get it sorted, because these players can bring United to the next level. And it's about backing the manager about what they want. Like you said, you don't see there being a problem with Solskjaer's side because obviously the transfers he's actually been bringing in so far have been relatively all successes, I think it's fair to say, or at least more positive than negative when it comes to the likes of players that were supposed to be just squad players, like James and Igalo, for example. But there's another thing Solskjaer's obviously having to be worried about is that over this summer there's been things that have gone wrong, to put it in a kind of general way. The issues with Maguire and Mykonos, which obviously were beyond his control. Pogba contracting COVID-19 or testing positive for COVID-19. Wan-Bissaka having to be quarantined after being allowed to go to Dubai, but staying a little bit too long. Rashford's injuries, Williams' injuries. Shaw, Tuanzebe have also picked up injuries before the end of the season. And now most recently Mason Greenwood's incident in Iceland, which I think will actually probably be the most solvable issue with, as obviously he did have an apology earlier today, which I think that should just be the end of it, really, and obviously the fine. But I mean, this is obviously not the season, Arion, or certainly not the summer. All things considered, over this year, that Solskjaer should be having to deal with this stuff. So do you think that's going to put a lot of pressure on when we play at home to Crystal Palace?
I think overall, I thought that if United get their business done early and get the players that they want, there was going to be pressure on United to perform straight away because there would be no excuses. But now it feels like United have been more active when it comes to lawyers and court cases than they have been in the market. I think it's a different kind of pressure on Solskjaer, I think, more than the team, because he has to solve all of that now when all of those players with their different circumstances are coming back into training. And I think especially for the likes of Greenwood now, which is his first kind of big... it's his first time in the media, because United have been protecting him from the media and not letting him do press conferences. And he goes off to his first England duties and he's doing a 30-minute press conference by himself. And then he's obviously, I don't know if he wasn't briefed about what he's supposed to do in his downtime or whatever. But it's like, it's his first big test at 18 years old. And I think Solskjaer, as his kind of mentor, has to bring him back in there and just let him refocus on his football again. But I think in terms of the game against Crystal Palace, the kind of first 11 that United have nailed down on before the season was over, I think we all know what it can do, and especially when it's well rested, when all of those players come back. So I don't think the lack of transfers is an immediate worry, because I think we're going to be fine for the rest of September at least, because the games aren't going to be coming up that thick and fast as it starts in October. But then you mentioned all those injuries and knocks, and those are inevitable, especially with that schedule. So that's when the worries kind of start to come in, because we don't know yet how much he's going to get back, because the window obviously hasn't been closed yet. But if he doesn't, if they fail to get those first choice players or second choice players, then you're like, well, do we have to adjust expectations then? Because if he doesn't get the players that he kind of deserves to be back to get, then we can't really expect a title challenge, can we?
No, yeah, absolutely. It's going to be, hopefully it's going to be a very productive last few days. Obviously, we've seen a few snags down the road. Obviously, there's been a lot more silence on the Jadon Sancho front. They're starting to, we've just seen, it seems like there might be a dead end or a snag hit in the Reguilon deal due to the buyback clause that Real Madrid are insisting on. It seems that the Upamecano deal was never actually going to happen. And maybe the fact that Barcelona and Liverpool still remain interested and persistent in securing the Thiago deal will mean that we might miss out on him too. So it's all about securing things quickly and making sure the fans are actually really, I think really from a PR perspective from United, they've had a lot of smoke screens. We've been talking about smoke screens for the last 2 years, I think, and how they use one deal to smoke screen another deal. They use interest to smoke screen actually signing a player. Realistically, just keeping the fans open. We shouldn't have to be going on Twitter every 25 minutes to see if Fabrizio said anything in the last 30 seconds since we last checked. So we should be obviously having an open statement from the club. It shouldn't be the fact that Ollie's now saying, I'm not going to talk about other players from other teams, which is, I don't think that's actually, I think that's just him saying something, because honestly, I don't think he knows what's happening. If he was going to say, in January, we're looking at Erling Haaland and Jude Bellingham, and neither deal got done, they both moved to Dortmund, it's going to make him look like an idiot, because he knows that the board are incompetent at getting deals done that he wants at the moment, especially efficiently. So realistically, the club should be far more open. Ed Woodward should be far more open about what's actually going on in the transfer dealings instead of hiding behind, all cloak and daggers and things. And it's just a real shame that that's how it's really worked. I mean, even our kits have been leaked before Ed Woodward's had a time to release them on his own. Of course, Aaron, you're wearing probably the best of the three. Let's talk about the one that was released today, Suraj. Not a big fan?
Not at all. I believe we're going to wear white shorts with that kit, and I see a lot of people saying, "Oh, that's great," but I don't think that's great. I think that's going to look as bad, white shorts with that zebra kit. I think the black shorts would still look better, but if you've seen the back of the kit, I think that looks pretty good, because that's just like plain white with a few stripes on the shoulder part. But the front, it's so bad. Like, the stripes don't even have a pattern. It's just a straight line and then one diagonal line. I don't know what's going on. And they did try their whole PR stunts. They got Beckham to wear it. They got H to wear it. And I don't know. It doesn't change my opinion. It still looks really bad. Which is a shame, because this time I don't think any of the kits are really good. I like the red one. I've always said that. And then the away kit, a lot of people like, but I'm still on edge. The third kit's just horrible.
It's a bit of a shame. I think hopefully it's just going to be one that is used so infrequently that it sort of just goes down in legend really over time. We'll have to see. But no, it's really bad. It looks like like they've tried to recreate the scene in Mykonos, because it looks a bit like just looks a bit like the Holiday T-shirt. It just should not have ever been there. But yeah, we'll have to see how often that is used. Of course, the third kit is normally used when we play when we play like away to Burnley or in a Champions League game or something like that. But I don't know.
If I can just, of course, imagine that comeback against PSG in that kit, because we'd be wearing the white kit.
Oh,
I wouldn't watch any replays of that game ever.
I was just about to say that if they recreate Paris in that kit, then I don't mind.
Oh god.
on the other point, it was the same kit we used when we lost to Everton. So
yeah,
there's both sides of the coin. But yeah, we'll move on from that horror show, because we'll have to experience it all season. So we'll go straight on to the Premier League. Of course, returning with Arsenal's trip away to Fulham, and we all hope Mitrovic can do some wonders there. But we'll just go through and say relegation. Obviously, Leeds, West Brom, and Fulham were the promoted sides. West Ham, Brighton, and Villa managed to avoid relegation at the end of last season in some sort of dramatic style. Realistically, Grealish cancelling out, or rather scoring and having his goal cancelled out by Yarmolenko, but it was enough to keep Villa up and send Bournemouth and Watford down. along with Norwich, who had been relegated, I believe, the week before, or rather 2 weeks before. So we'll go for the relegation picks. Do you think it will be the same three that go up, Arion, or do you think it will be one of the Premier League clubs in taking one of their places?
So do you want me to give you all three?
Absolutely, yeah.
So the more I thought about it, the more I kind of started to think that this might be another kind of relegation battle similar to last season. Because I do think that those promoted teams that did come up, two of them do have history of coming up and struggling the first season they're up, and then Leeds are a huge unknown. But I do think that Leeds, just purely on the fact that they're coached by Marcelo Bielsa, will manage to stay up. I'm not sure if they're going to do a Sheffield straight away, especially with some of their signings being... I mean, I think I kind of like their business because they're not really going for those high-profile players that maybe Fulham always used to try to go for and then just go straight back down. So I guess that remains to be seen how it unfolds. But I do think that two of the current teams will go down, and I think that Fulham will also go down, along with Aston Villa and West Ham for me. I think Fulham... I kind of always get excited by watching the highlights of the Championship, and I think Fulham look decent, and they'll come up into the Premier League and maybe start staying there again for like they used to. But they always come up, they make a bit of noise in the market, and then they just end up crashing back down. So I kind of lost hope in Fulham. So I think they're going to come in, they're going to participate, and they'll just be back down to the Championship. And then when it comes to West Ham, it just looks like a mess, doesn't it? I think that it's not a project that David Moyes can create and kind of save from scratch, I don't think. So, and they're not really getting the backing in the market either, while selling some players, and players that are there currently are getting mad on social media and stuff. So I just don't think it's a healthy atmosphere in there right now. And they just didn't look good at the end of last season either. So I'm not really expecting much from West Ham. And I think Aston Villa, I think they misfired massively last summer with their transfer window. They were going for some really crazy caliber of players and very unknown as well. I think they're changing their approach a little bit this season. I see that they're going for Ollie Watkins from Brentford, who was very good last season, but they're about to spend some crazy money on him. I think it was around £40 million. So yeah, I like that they're switching the profile of player they're going for, but it remains to be seen how they blend into what they have right now. And a Jack Grealish who could possibly get frustrated by being priced out of a move away. So I think it's going to be interesting. But Villa always, however good or bad their window is, they always manage to be around that bottom three. So I think they might not be so lucky this season as they were last season.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I can definitely see all three of those. I can see all five of the teams you mentioned competing for relegation places, really. Suraj, would you agree with Arion's picks?
Yeah, but I think I differ in one team. Yeah, one team's different. So if you remember the podcast that we did right before the lockdown was lifted, I said that Brighton will go down, and then within 2 weeks they were 6 points clear of relegation. So my predictions are almost never right. But okay, here goes. I think 18th place is going to be Aston Villa. They got really lucky escaping relegation, and I think this time they're definitely going down. And very close to them, who just escaped relegation, is Fulham. So I think Fulham they're gonna escape, and then Villa are gonna go down. And then number 19 is I have Brighton over there, and so that's the thing with Brighton. I never see them win. Whenever I watch the games, they're always losing, but somehow they manage to stay up. I think it's because there are worse teams down there, but I think this time they're gonna go. They're definitely gonna go down, because it's always for me. It's will they, won't they, will they, won't they, but they always somehow survive. So I'm gonna put in Brighton over there, and last I have West Brom. I think West Brom are the kind of team that are more or less completely made of Premier League rejects. So I think they have Charlie Austin and Robson Kanu. There are more. I just can't remember. And I think they're Premier League rejects for a reason, because they can't cut it in the big leagues unless they make some really good signings. And also Slaven Bilic. I personally don't really rate him a lot. So I think they're going to go down quite convincingly. Yeah.
Thank you.
Charlie Austin is in my fantasy team.
Charlie Austin.
Yeah.
I think I've got West Brom's Diangana, the one they poached from
Yes.
West Ham. So
It's a good sign.
thought I might give him a try. But before I go on to mine, Suraj, why not West Ham?
Well, actually, I didn't even consider West Ham. I had Southampton in 16th place. West Ham just seemed to have that kind of, I don't know how to explain, but it just seemed like the kind of club that know how to fight and squeeze out results when it matters the most, and they have some quality players as well. So I don't think they seem like the club that would go down. They probably won't even have a great season, but one of their typical 13, 14 position seasons, because they have some really good players in there. And was that Issa Diop that we were linked with?
Yeah.
And I mean, it went around as a joke on Twitter, but he's actually a really good defender. Probably not Manchester United level, but he's a good Premier League defender. And then they have Declan Rice. So I think they're definitely not going down.
They also have Sam Allardyce on speed dial. If they're
Yes, they do. Yeah. I think they've already probably made a couple calls just in case. But yeah, I mean, I think weirdly, it's just the West Ham on paper could be, challenging for Europa League spots, but at the same time, they just haven't worked. I think Felipe Anderson had a really great first season, and then last season he was a nothing player. Basically spent all his time on the bench, didn't really do much. I think Antonio really changed their season, and Yarmolenko and Souček were both brilliant as well. I can see them going down. I think I did maybe a couple weeks ago predict or think that they were going to go down, but I reckon it will be West Brom at 18th. I think Villa at 19th, and I think 20th. I think it's going to be Fulham, because I just don't. I think credit what Scott Parker's done for them, but I just don't think it's enough yet. I think he'll probably go down, bounce back up again, and then maybe he can stick up when if a couple teams aren't as good as them, and we'll just have to see. But they're mine. We'll move straight on to, of course, the more important predictions and top four. So we'll start 4-3-2-1. So Arion, who's gonna make it into fourth spot for you?
So I had a bit of a difficulty with that one, and I initially put Spurs in there because I kind of have been ridiculing their signings, but then I thought about it, and I thought about this documentary, and I feel like Mourinho is getting those kind of greedy players that he feels he'll be able to, he will know what he can get out of them, and they will fight, which is, I think, a different characteristic to what he has there right now, because as he says, he just has a lot of nice guys there. So I kind of think that it might be a smart tactic to go for those lower profile but greedy footballers. But then when I thought about it, I was like, with Chelsea's window, they have to be in the top four just on the name of their signings alone. So I do think that I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, because Frank Lampard has a huge job on his hands and a lot of pressure coming for his head right now with the amount of signings that he got and how high profile all of them are and how much money they've spent. He's been getting the backing that I think Solskjaer should be getting right now for what he achieved last season, because realistically, Lampard should have been very comfortable in that top four by the time it was being decided, and they could have still been out of it on final day. So I do think that he's been backed fantastically. They've gotten in some very good attacking players, which might be a bit of a worry for Chelsea fans, because I think the defense was their biggest issue and still is, realistically. Though they did get Thiago Silva in, and it is rumored that a keeper is coming in, but I'm not sure that that's maybe what they needed right now to reinforce it. But I do think overall, looking at it, I do think they signed enough players to warrant them a place in the top four, and I think they'll come fourth.
Yeah. And Suraj, would you agree with that?
No. I have odd to say on a United channel, but I have United fourth. Primarily to not jinx it, and Secondarily, you have Man City above us, Liverpool above us, and I think Chelsea are just going to overtake us. For one, I don't mind if we finish in the top four, but there has to be some significant difference that we see over last season. Maybe comfortably top four plus a trophy, maybe throw in an FA Cup or a League Cup. So that way, I'm not too fussed about us winning we absolutely have to win the league next year. That it doesn't really matter to me as long as we see some definite progress. So if we finish in the top four convincingly plus get a trophy, I think it'll be a pretty good season. But for me, a trophy is a must next season. And I think based on the current signings, not considering the fact that we haven't signed Jadon Sancho, I'm assuming that he's not a United player, Reguilon isn't, and so on. With the current squad, I think we can finish fourth.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that, Suraj. I definitely think that with the squad as it is, I think third or fourth is about as far. I think the squad as it is, third and a trophy is as good as it's going to get. I think we might be able to puncture through one of those semi-finals we were knocked out of last season. But I think other than that, I think that's as far as it's going to go. I think if we can get the Sancho deal through, and I think it will be one that happens just far too late, and maybe another one, I can see United coming, at least competing for the title, definitely for most of the season, but I see it being a better margin than the one under Mourinho. I think it'll be less than 19 points, but I'm not sure by how much. I'd say I'm going to be optimistic here and say the Sancho deal goes through. So I say Chelsea go fourth because I still think there are weaknesses there. I think their right back is still a little iffy. If it's Azpilicueta, there's a lack of pace. Reece James has a lack of experience. I think there's still another question mark over who goes alongside Thiago Silva. And I still think Chilwell can be caught out. I think there are still issues with the back four, which won't be sorted out by this season. And I think the fact is that they'll be playing Champions League football, and that's something that we need to consider too, because their squad depth in some areas isn't the best, but in the attacking areas it's phenomenal. But we'll have to see. I still think they'll come fourth. Third place, Aaron, is it United for you?
Yeah, I think it's United, but I do agree with what Suraj said, because obviously third is no progress in terms of the place, but I do think that we finished third more comfortably. That's what I hope is going to happen too. And one of those semi-finals hopefully gets converted into a final and a trophy, because I think like this season the progress was there maybe just on third, but then like when you look deeper into the season, 3 semi-finals, how United were playing, there was progress. We've seen the development, the style of play was kind of being etched into it and everything. But now I think it's the time to, like, I do agree with Suraj's assessment. We're just off on the how we rank United. I do think that we're going to show more consistency with this team that we have right now, and I think that will result in a more comfortable finish, as in we're not going to have to battle till the very last day to secure Champions League football. I do think I was also kind of looking at our squad right now as it is, and I do have that little belief in me that the players that were so bad last season just cannot get any worse if they stay. That I do think there will be maybe some shines if Lingard stays, and some shines of what Pereira can do if they do stay and they have to play. You know, that's just taking the worst case scenario into consideration, that there is no further movement in the transfer window. So I do think that the squad and how deep it is right now is capable, like you said, Arjun, to be in the top 4. And I do think they will finish third, obviously bar disaster when it comes to injuries and stuff like that. That completely changes things. But on paper right now, I do think they have what it takes to finish third and grab a trophy in one of the 2 domestic cups, potentially.
Yeah.
But I do think that the league campaign, with how we've seen the team play against the smaller teams after Bruno came and after Pogba came back, I do think that there is potential there to finish off a lot more comfortably, but inside the top 4. So I do think they will be third.
Thank you. So I'm assuming, given the fact you put United at 4th, is it Chelsea at 3rd?
Yeah, I do have Chelsea at 3rd. So essentially the signings they've made are all excellent, but without a proper pre-season, it's going to be very difficult for Lampard to gel well. So what Chelsea need to do is they need to get a string of results right off the bat, and if they don't, then I think Lampard's going to be under serious pressure. And as much as they've invested up front, their back is still quite weak. They have a 36-year-old Thiago Silva, unproven in the Premier League. He was an excellent defender a few years ago, but I'm really not sure how good he is right now. And 50 million for Chilwell is just I don't know. I couldn't believe it. Uh, for me, he's a 20 million player, plus 20 million for English passport, and 10 million for that banger against Watford that he scored. As soon as that ball went in, I knew that that's 10 million added to his price tag. So they have some frailties, and so I think they will do well, but not better than previously settled squads like Liverpool or City.
Thank you. For me, I'm actually going to go for a little bit of a shock. In third, I'm going to pick Liverpool. Yeah, I know it's a bold claim, but I think as it stands, I think Liverpool have been found out. I think they don't have what it takes in midfield to break down teams. I think we saw it against Arsenal twice. We saw it against City when they sort of countered. We saw it against Burnley and Everton recently. In fact, Everton, I think, and we saw it against United, really, at Old Trafford. And I think teams have realised Wijnaldum's sort of past it. When Henderson's been pocketed or is out of the team, Liverpool's midfield isn't as creative. I think Fabinho's fantastic, but I think if you play low blocks and don't give Salah enough space to do anything and make sure Mane's well defended, they're pretty much done. And it means that Firmino comes deep to try and be creative, and then he's not in the positions where he can be a striker and tap in the goal. So they either need a new striker, which I thought they were going to get Werner, or they were going to get a number 10, and I thought they were going to get Havertz, and neither of those happened. And then I thought they were going to go and buy Coutinho again, but it looks like Koeman's going to take him. And now even the Thiago deal looks like it's not going to happen. And I think the fact is that Liverpool haven't invested in their squad for 2 years. So credit where credit's due, they did fantastically to win the title last year. But I just don't think they've progressed enough to not only compete on more than one front, because let's be honest, they didn't do anything else in the domestic cups. They didn't do anything in the Champions League that was spectacular. So I just don't see them following it up this year, especially as it stands. But we'll see what you guys have thought. I mean, you've put Chelsea and Liverpool, United and Liverpool in your third and fourth places. So who have you gone for as second place, Aaron?
Now, for me, I have Chelsea and United fourth and third, and then I have Liverpool in second.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I do agree totally with everything that you just said and why you placed them third. I do think that they are very one-dimensional, but they do what they do very well, and teams just haven't been able to cope with that. But I do think that now, and the Arsenal game showed it with how leaky their defense has been, they just haven't been able to penetrate it, because I think they've just known how to set up more. And then when you do cancel out Liverpool's preferred way of playing, they don't really have that midfield to, push it. The signings of Minamino and Keita, not really doing it for me, and I just don't see how they are the depth that they need to, just be at that level consistently. And historically, we know how hard it is to stay at the top, how hard it is to stay hungry, and with that Klopp system, once that team achieves what it set out to achieve, how hard it is to get back up for it again and play that relentless style of football. So I do agree that I do think that we're going to see a drop-off. I don't know how major it's going to be, because obviously those players that they do have, they are still all of them pretty much in their prime. They have Trent and Gomez who are still developing. So it's going to be very interesting, because they haven't invested. Then the targets that they have had have gone to other clubs. They signed a Greek left back who's obviously not going to be first choice. If Thiago comes in, I do think he makes their midfield better, but I don't know if Thiago is the difference between, retaining the title and not retaining it. I do think that you need a bit more. You need that kind of a backup option, because what if that cross or that long ball doesn't work? then, like you said, Firmino drops in, and you don't really have another option up front. Origi maybe, but I don't think he's that much in favor of Jurgen Klopp when to use him in big moments. So, yeah, I do think that they will finish second, and I give that to them on just how good they have been over the past few seasons. But I think they have maybe that squad right there has reached their peak, and I would be surprised if they retain the title, let alone compete on multiple fronts with that squad without further investment.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Suraj, do you agree with Arion? Second place for Liverpool?
Yeah, I do. I have Liverpool in second place too. Actually, when I first made the list, I looked back at it and I saw Liverpool in fourth place, and I was like, no, this isn't sitting right with me. So I tried to figure out more logically, and they're back to second. No, but I agree with you, Arjun. I think they've been found out, and I think they would have been found out way earlier had teams not just rolled over for them. It's exactly what happened when I think Guardiola's second season where teams just rolled over and said, okay, just take your 3 points and go. I think a lot of the bottom half sides that just did that. They didn't really test Liverpool. They played on the back foot and didn't really try to do them a lot of harm. I remember a lot of people on Twitter just counting 1 point against Liverpool as a win. So I think, yeah. Plus another thing with Liverpool is, I'm clearly not wishing injury on anybody, but I think they have been very lucky with their injury record. If you look at United, we don't have any of those cute niggle type of injuries where the players, just out for 3 days and all. When our players get injured, it's straight away Pogba out for 6 months, Martial out for 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Liverpool are yet to have one of those injuries. They have missed players for 1 or 2 weeks here and there, but they've never, for one think that if Virgil van Dijk, well, I hope he doesn't, but just God forbid he does get an injury, I think that defense is completely compromised. So so I think that's precisely why they won't retain the title.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, I've just sort of realised that we've all picked Manchester City, so 1 minute silence for that. But why have you gone for that, Arion?
What if I have Arsenal?
I'm going to pretend you didn't say that.
Well, you would be right because I didn't say that. Yeah, I do have City, and I just think Guardiola is a better manager than Klopp when it comes to that. Well, I think now it doesn't make sense because in crunch time, obviously they folded in the Champions League, and obviously they fell away from Liverpool in that title race last season. But I do think historically, Guardiola was that manager when he first came into England. His first season wasn't great, but he invested where he needed to invest, and he killed it the next season. It wasn't even the competition. So I do think that it might be a bit similar this season. He's addressed the positions I think that he needed to address. He replaced Sané straight away. He brought in a left-sided defender with Ake who can play at left back and at left centre back.
Yeah.
And people maybe won't rate him that highly for the money they paid, but I do think he's a very good player, and in a better team, I don't think that he's going to be exposed as much as maybe he would be at a Bournemouth, and especially with City and how much ball they have. So I do think that he comes in and straight away becomes a very good option to partner Laporte as a defender, or even somebody else, but he's just a naturally left-sided player. And then the rest of the team, I do think that they're not done yet. I think that especially now with the stuff that's going on with FFP, I think it's just a free range now for the rich owners to spend because they're not really getting punished, are they? So I do think that they will still invest because I think they need another striker, in my opinion, because I don't think Jesus is the long-term replacement for Aguero. And obviously he's still there, but maybe he's just kind of starting to come off a little bit. But then you have De Bruyne, Sterling, Bernardo Silva. Foden is going to have a better year than he had last year. I have no doubts about it. I do think they're just equipped to go at it right away. And I think that the signing of Ferran Torres, a Spanish player to come in under Pep Guardiola, is a perfect signing really for him to play the way that he wants to play. And like I said at the beginning, I think the biggest point of my argument is that I do think Guardiola is just that kind of a tactical and a better planner. And I don't think they're going to drop off, especially in the league, as much as they did last season, because I think that's going to be their priority right now, to get back on top in the league. And that would be maybe an excuse for them not competing in the Champions League as much, which I do think they still will probably reach their quarters or the semis like they always do. in the past year. So I don't know if it's going to be a comfortable title win, but I do think that they just have more than Liverpool, I think. And also agreeing with what Suraj said, Liverpool just haven't had any injuries, and they're not really that deep. If they get an injury, even if it's not Van Dijk, but if it's a Salah or a Mane, they don't really have a direct replacement to kind of go in and just compensate right away and keep playing like they are. Whereas City do have that in abundance, like we've seen in pretty much every position. So I do think, unfortunately, pick your poison, Liverpool or City. I do think City will get back to their title-winning ways next season, and hopefully we can have a say about that the season after.
Yeah, absolutely. Suraj, do you agree with everything Arion said, or anything else you'd want to?
Yeah, pretty much. I covered it. The only thing Manchester City needed before the transfer window began was a clean slate from UEFA, and they just handed it to them. And they're going to sign Koulibaly for 75 million. I mean, that's got to be some sort of cheating, because if you put Koulibaly and Laporte next to each other, it's pretty much their league title. And then, sorry,
it's a wall.
Yeah, exactly. So Guardiola's done it once, and he's going to do it again. And like Arion said, it's probably not going to be a 90-point season for them, but I think of the remaining competition, it's pretty much them. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a somber note to end our predictions on. We'll just do some quick fire ones. So we'll start with just general ones. So we'll start with the Golden Boot. For me, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Arion?
Yeah, I agree. I think I liked how Arsenal's attack looked against Liverpool, and I do think he's going to have a ton of chances. And Arteta copied Solskjaer and started playing him as an inside forward like he does Rashford, like he does with Rashford at United. So I do think that Aubameyang has goals and goals in him in that front line.
Thank you. Suraj?
Yeah, Aubameyang as well. There is something about Arsenal that I really like, and Aubameyang's been doing very well for himself even when Arsenal look poor. I think he'll just carry that on.
Thank you. Surprise package in the Premier League. For me, I'm going to say Everton making it into the trying to push the top 6. Arion?
I think I'm going to make Suraj angry, because I think Brian might come in close to the somewhere close to the top 10. I just feel like they've been, like Suraj says that whenever he watches them they lose, but whenever I see them they seem to have for a lower level Premier League team, they do seem to have something going there, maybe similar to Bournemouth, that they do try to play the ball and they have some decent players in the middle and stuff. So I don't know. I kind of like them, and I like the business that they've done so far. They got a starting defender from the Dutch national team in Veltman, and they got Lallana in there as well, who has the capability to play in the Premier League. So maybe if he stays injury-free, he improves them a bit going forward. But I do think that they might surprise a few people, and maybe they'll replace Sheffield somewhere in that lower stage of the top 10.
Yeah, thank you. Suraj, surprise?
Actually, adding to what Arion said, the only time I watch Brighton and they win is when United go to the Amex. That's when they always win. But I was going to go for Everton as well because of their signings. They got Allen and Rodriguez, and now I think Decore got confirmed while we were recording. But just for variety, I'll say Leeds push into the top. I think top 8 and top 7.
Excellent. Well, that'll be very interesting. Obviously, they have got a very good team on paper as well. Calvin Phillips, Rodrigo, to name just a couple. Going for Golden Glove, I'm going to go for Hugo Lloris in Tottenham.
Yeah, I like that one. Like I said, I've liked the kind of signings that Tottenham have, but I completely forgot when giving my league-winning prediction that Koulibaly is about to join City. So I think Koulibaly, Laporte, they're giving Ederson that Golden Glove back-to-back, I think.
Thank you. Suraj?
Okay, again, pretty much said what I wanted to say. So, again, I'll go for a different one. I'm going to go for Bernd Leno. He had an excellent save percentage even before, even last season. And now they have Saliba and, what's that guy's name? Gabriel, yeah. So now they have a better defense as well. And well, honorable mention to Emiliano Martinez, who's been excellent.
Yeah, I think that's a very bold claim for Arsenal to keep clean sheets, but fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. We'll see. Hopefully that. I mean, from an Arsenal perspective, that'll be a massive transition from, well, forever. But yeah, most likely manager to be sacked during the season. For me, I might say David Moyes.
Yeah, I totally agree. I had David Moyes, but since you said David Moyes first, that gives me an opportunity to give Frank Lampard an honourable mention. I think that if they're not comfortably in the top 4 by Christmas, I think Roman's checkbook is going to start tingling again.
Yeah. Suraj?
I have Slaven Bilic with West Brom.
You really don't like him.
Again, it's nothing personal. I haven't seen anything noteworthy from him.
I'm afraid that is all we have time for this week. Thank you for watching, and thank you to both Arion and Suraj for joining me. It's been a pleasure, guys. Hopefully we can be a little bit less stressed in the next week, coming up to United's first game against Crystal Palace in 11 days' time, like we said. If you have any questions or any topics you would like for us to discuss in the next one, please comment below on the YouTube video or on the Twitter or Facebook post, and we will be opening our poll for discussing any other future topics. And if you enjoyed this, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and follow us on Twitter for all of our content.